Right.
Hello, hello, and happy Friday. I am Rosella Ide White, your Love Big Coach, and I am so excited to be with you for today's installment of Elevate Coaching, a conversation series that helps you consider possibilities and create new realities through the power of coaching. This month, for our first quarterly conversation series, we're celebrating Women's History Month. So we're uplifting and highlighting incredible, phenomenal, fantastical, all the words, women coaches. And I'm so excited because today you get to meet someone who I consider to be the coach's coach, Charisma. All right. So welcome, Charisma. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I think it's so funny when people ask, like, who are you? Because the question that, like, how you used to answer that is completely different than how you answered that now. But who am I? So my name is Dakira, and I feel like I am a woman who's just growing, learning, embodying love, and looking to use, my divine gifts to help other people really come into themselves. I'm a mother to a 4-year-old going on 45.
Yes, who is adorable, by
Oh
the
my
way.
goodness. Um, a coach and you know, just a human being looking to just make impact with
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Well, and I love how you talk about, even just in the introduction, like how we define ourselves today is different than how we might have defined ourselves in years, seasons, times past. So
Mhm.
I'm curious because you are, and we're going to get more into like the type of coaching you do, how you show up in your coaching practice, and the ways that you use your skills. But how has coaching helped you shift in the response to who are you and what do you do?
Man, I mean, whew, just alone, like just what you just did, like it's the questions, right? Because then coaching is all about asking those questions that make you really think. And I feel like it's helped me because you can't ask someone a question that you're not willing to first ask yourself. Yeah, you cannot do that.
Yes.
So, and having to get to know people and get curious about their lives, it automatically makes you curious about who you are, what you've been told you are. Do you really agree with that? Where has
Yes.
that thing come from? And so I feel like coaching is a beautiful domino effect of like what you do for other people first has to be done for yourself. And just in that, and it continues to unravel. Like it's never done. It just continue to unravel. So I think that's how it's like helped
Yes.
me just really keep identifying, who I am and getting to the core of like that essence piece of myself.
What we do for others, we have
Hmm.
to first be willing to do for ourselves.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
that is something, as I think about my shift into coaching from pastoral leadership or from faith-based ministry, I think that was something that I was struggling with in the faith-based space because it's a lot of do as I say, but not what I do. And I don't even mean that from like the scandals, right? There's the type of faith-based world that we always see these scandals, but
Mhm.
even from the places of self-care and
Yeah.
Sabbath and grounding, there are so many leaders who are just unmoored, who are not taking care of themselves. And I kind of think that from a faith perspective, it's set up like that, right? Because people are like, well, I'm in this position and I need to present this way of being, even if I'm not doing that. But I actually have found more integration as a coach. And I'm
Mhm.
not sure why or where that's come from. So when you think about your life and you think about your clients, because I think that there's always an interconnection, a lot of our
There
clients
is.
are us,
Yes.
right? In some way, shape, or form. What are the things that your clients have revealed to you about yourself that led you to go
Ooh,
deeper into your own journey?
like everything. Like it sounds crazy, but if you're a
Mhm.
coach, you understand like there are I would just tell you like the most recent. I was, you know, coach training is crazy here in IGC, like
Mhm.
around this time, not crazy, but what I mean, it's just like, it's really busy.
Yeah.
And so I was gearing up for my thing of my coach always says ease and flow, but me and some friends put grace in there. So ease, grace, and flow. That's why when you sent me that, I was like
Yes.
connected. And I was having a conversation with one of my clients and she was talking about her schedule and how she felt overwhelmed. I'm like, oh my God, we are like so in alignment. And that
Mhm.
made me say to myself, well, if this is what you told her to do, right? Ah, how are you about to practice this for yourself? And so before I did anything, I determined for the very first time, what are my work boundaries? Not the ones I feel like I have to have, but the ones I desire to have as a work
Yeah.
boundary. So I feel like things are constantly coming up all the time, right? But not even but and when those things come up and something triggers you or you feel like, ooh, this is me, it's like now you have your work to do. And so I feel like it happens all the time. There's layers to healing, there's layers to growth, and you're like, how can I dive deeper into this right now?
Yes. Yes.
It's coming.
Well, oh, like when you said that around the this is not what, like you said, you made the distinction and around your boundaries. This is not what I'm expected to have, but this is what I want to have.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
And I feel like that is a perfect segue because your kind of focus in coaching, like we can coach anyone around anything, but
Mhm.
you are like the mindset, I feel like shifting guru, the one who helps us identify those obstacles, those limiting beliefs. So even that shift of like, it's not about what's expected of me, it's about what I want and what
Mhm.
I'm creating. Talk a little bit about that, right? Like when you think about mindset work, what is it that you invite people to? What is the crux of that work for you?
I feel like the anchor of that is really understanding that your ways is connected to your thinking. Right? So like every way that we move is connected to the way that we think. And so when you're asking yourself, like when you're going through your patterns and different things that you're doing, it's almost like, well, what do you think about that thing? What meaning are you giving to this? And so even if we go back to the boundaries piece of me being like, for so long, my way of thinking was this is what I'm supposed to do. In work, I'm
Mhm.
supposed to cut off at this time. I'm a mom now, so I'm supposed to do this. And it's like, but wait, there's another thing outside of that. What do you want? Like who asks you, what do you want? And
What
I
do you
think that
want?
that's like, yeah, what do you want? So I feel like the mindset work is all about challenging what comes up. It's literally challenging
Mhm.
those thoughts, those beliefs, and that come up for you and really asking, where do you align with that? And is that truly yours? Because I feel like a lot of things that we have
Mhm.
are not even our own. And so we have to see what is ours, what's not, and then determine what do we actually want in that play. You can't take a mindset shift. We always talk about releasing, but you can't release
Mhm.
something without replacing it with something else. I look at it as like that little remember when you were a kid and you go to school and you had like the little name slot. If I release
Yes.
something from my name slot, I have to know or have to determine what I want to put back into that slot, because if I don't, my old way of doing or being will come right back in. So it's like really understanding that piece. I can't just let go.
That
I have to replace.
And that's where I feel like coaching becomes such a gift, right? Because a lot of times we can maybe, I mean, some people can identify the
Mhm.
things that have been the limiting belief or the obstacle, but the coach's job, invitation, work, right, is to
Mhm.
accompany someone to keep remembering what that new thing is, what that
Mhm.
new way of thinking, being, believing, behaving is, and helping you. I talk about tiny revolutions or those small wins that we make to say, see, this was an opportunity where your former way of thinking or being could have come up, but you chose this way. And that creates the momentum that then also builds the confidence. And we're able to then create a new reality. One of the things I'm curious about, because we swim in the same waters, breathe similar air when it comes to our way of thinking about stuff. We are Black women,
Mhm.
and we are Black women that have all of the things that come with Black identity, especially being Black women from these United States, right? Like all of the things, the history, the oppression, the perpetuation of racism, the intersectional identities of, class, race, gender, all of that.
Mhm.
I'm curious about your thoughts of how coaching, something that has long been thought of as something that's not accessible or only for people that have material resource, right? How is coaching, how have you seen it show up in your life, with your family, with your relationships in ways that also empowers and builds agency, right? Like this belief that I can't do this because I don't have this.
Mhm.
How have you seen it coaching become more accessible, or how do you use it in a way that's more accessible?
I love that question. So, and I'm hoping I'm going to answer this correct, but I'm just going to go with what first came up in my spirit when you said it. That was my sentiment when I got into coaching. Like you don't see, you don't have that ideal, you don't see yourself. But
Mm,
then there's something that I learned in grad school. So I went to school for social work and I went to University of Michigan, was my dream school. And it was a nice experience, but sometimes you are that one person
One.
in that space. And when you're listening and you're having group discussions, I started to learn the value of, or the difference between paper and people. Paper, I'm getting this degree, I have this certificate, I have that. People, I have your experience, I share that. I come from a different space, I think different, I talk different because I can relate in a different way. And so I personally feel like when it comes to coaching, it's like you have to understand that your experiences is the magic. It is the key. It is that thing that's going to help when we talk about speaking or coaching to a need versus a niche. How do I know what you need if I haven't really looked into the psychology of what you need? If I haven't felt what you need? If I haven't first overcome what you feel like you need? If I haven't done those things, I can't teach you. I can't coach you. I can't ask you the questions, again, that I haven't asked myself. I cannot do those things. So I feel like that's how I've seen it, like, show up. And then with my family, like when you shift one person, like you shift yourself, you change, you start thinking different, you start moving different. Some people become curious naturally. No. Okay, go ask your dad. Look at that.
I love it.
Mom,
The baby's coming.
Mom, like, just give me some help really quickly. But when you shift yourself, some people become naturally curious. They want to know what you're doing. And then other people divert from that. But then you kind of know why, because you can understand, right? You remember you were in those spaces. I hope I'm answering your question, but I feel like it's knowing the experience and knowing that that's your magic, like who you are, the experiences you have had, that is your magic. And I think us as women of color who have lived these different type of lives and different experiences, we can relate in a way that sometimes others can't. And I think that people often, no matter what, we are looking for that relatability. People are looking for that community. People do want to know, not that you hear me, but you see me, and that they want to know. I always say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think something about, them knowing that you have you're familiar, kind of gives that extra layer of safety.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you answered the question and you provided two threads, right? So on the one hand, right, someone who might feel like I don't have anything, or coaching is not for me because it looks like it's this thing that's for people who are in a particular place or have particular material resources. What you're saying, what we say, is actually your lived experience is the resource, right? So you don't have to come to coaching with anything but your personhood. And the willingness to ask yourself some questions and lean in, and not lean in the Sheryl Sandberg lean in, but like to come closer to who you are before the world told you who you could be, who you couldn't be, all of that. And conversely, right, and not all women of color, Black women, maybe share the same identity, but I think there are those of us that have done the work, that have really taken on the responsibility of mining our lived experience for those nuggets, for the truth, for the healing, for the wholeness, right? We are uniquely positioned because we can speak to and listen to your lived experience with care, and also reflect back to you what could be possible. Because I think one of the, and I say this often, one of the biggest tools of white supremacy and white supremacy culture, patriarchy, right, all of these things that are oppressive systems in our life, is that it leads us to believe that we are the only one, and that we can't become someone else, right, in terms of what we want for ourselves. But it goes back to what you said earlier, of that question of, what do you want? Right? Not what you should do, not what your parents or your caregivers want for you, not what society says that you have to do or be, but what do you want?
Absolutely.
So when you think about your work, right, with women and the clients that you have had over the years, what are some of the themes of obstacles and limiting beliefs that continually come up?
The biggest thing that I see is people have all the tools that they need, but they overthink the tools that they have. So Like they come and they will be like, I just need help with this thing. And here's my request. And they'll have, I mean, when I say these women will have everything mapped out from the top to like the top of their head to the sole of their feet, and they still feel like something's missing.
I've had that experience with you as my coach. And you've been like, okay, so this is what I'm saying, I'm seeing, and this is what you're saying, and it looks like you have it. So what's this really about?
Yes, and that is the big thing. Like I see that, and I feel like that they talk with we as women, because I'm going to say myself too. We talk ourselves out of that greatness. Like here we are, full package. I'm looking at this, I see it so clear, and I'm like telling telling my client like this is what I see. Like you said, what's really going on here is a thing, right? But it's all that feeling of something still missing.
And so, I mean, I sometimes just point to, especially if it's women of color, well, especially if it's women, there's something is still missing, the imposter syndrome, however we talk about that. I think women of color, it's racism, like it's white supremacy culture that's telling you that you are not measuring up, you're not enough. I think with all of us, it's patriarchy, right? What do you find that clients are like when they start to have those breakthroughs, that they recognize this has been the obstacle, or this is like, what is that thing?
Perfectionism. They want it to be perfect. They want to know the outcome. They don't want to surrender to the fact that I just have to put this out here. I have to do it. And I just have to surrender to what happens. They want to control too. I want to control what happens here. And so I want to put everything I can into this. And once I release it, I know it's going to do good. When that could be the furthest thing from the truth. You have no control over the outcome.
Surrender, releasing control, letting go of perfectionism, which is around ego, and not ego like I think I'm the shit. Like that's not how ego shows up a lot of times. Ego is much more pervasive, and like you got to have this all together in this way, or right. So these are these themes that you see constantly. Yes. And then what do you see as you're coaching folks? What becomes the breakthroughs, or what are those practices that you invite people to embody in order to start breaking through some of those blocks?
My favorite practice is being, right? So if you like, I swear, because when people always ask me like, what is it and what's the like people, I get these calls all the time for people who are interested in coach training. They're like, well, what's the key? And I'm like, you literally have to be. Like you have to just be, and you have to know that not that you don't do anything, but you can't be a human doing, you have to be a human being. And so before I even have you go out and push something out there like you're working on, I ask you, what are some things that you can do in your personal life that maybe you haven't surrendered to already, right? So having them surrender in another way can also breed the confidence to surrender, when it comes to business. So let's just focus on you as a person and surrendering parts of yourself that you've been really wanting to do and hang on to, and then, or you wanted to let go and kind of release, and you're scared, and then let's see how you feel about that, and we can move into the business aspect. But I feel like everything first starts with you, even though your business is a part of whatever you're creating, it's you first.
And that's the thing, that it's like when people come in and they have all of these ideas and goals and plans, and I'm like, well, again, like you said, it's mapped out, you have it, you know how to find the support, the mentorship, the training, whatever, but there is something within us that is still blocking that. And it goes back to being and surrendering, and dare I say, slowing down, which is something that we all struggle with because we're high functioning, high performing, high achieving women. So one more question about this, because this is good. And then I want to switch into how you embody your coaching practice through being the coach's coach. But how do you surrender? Like, what are your practices for the letting go?
The letting go, this is good because in my prayer group, we are really talking about this. And I feel like it's an everyday decision. So I feel like the way that I surrender is always like, one, what can I control? That's just the first thing. That's the simplest thing, right? But I'm not religious, but I'm still very spiritual, and I do believe in God. And so I believe that whether you're surrendering, regardless, you're always surrendering to something. I learned that. So my goal is to surrender to God and not to myself. And when I don't surrender, so I always ask, my anchor is asking myself, in this moment, who are you surrendering to? Is it you or is it God? And that has helped me so much, of being like, whoo, honey, this is you. So you can't do
How do you know? How do you know
if
it's, like if it's you or God?
That's a good question. Oh, you're getting all the good stuff. I feel like you can divinely feel, right? So let me give an example. I feel like with me, it's every excuse why I can't, why I need to, why this won't happen, why this, why that. God doesn't think the same way we think,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So
That's
it's
real.
like, yeah, he doesn't think the same way that we think. He's like, just and then you can feel too, like that internal voice that tells you to nudge and tells you to go somewhere.
Yeah.
By not surrendering to that, you're shutting it off. And so what is the shut off? You're doing it your own way now, right? So I
Yeah.
feel like I use that as like my personal tool to ask myself,
Yeah.
am I always getting it right? Probably not, right? But then there's a lesson
Yeah.
in that, what you learn and what comes up, and you're able to maneuver differently in the next round.
And it's not about getting it right. It's about the
Mm-mm.
awareness, it's about the intention, it's about the reflection, and it's about the moving forward, right? It's interesting. I think one of the tools that I used was a question that a young adult asked me or presented to me years ago. And they said, well, Rosella, are you making this decision from a place of fear or from a place of love? And that has become an anchor, like going back to what you said of, okay, is this for God? Is this for me? Like, how do I discern like where the ego is, where the freedom lies? And that has been helpful. And it's interesting. This conversation is reminding me to incorporate that more
Mm-hmm.
regularly in the season of my life, because when I'm making decisions from a place of love, there's abundance, there's possibility, there's creativity, there's liberation, there's healing. When I'm
Mm-hmm.
making it from a place of fear, there's anxiety, there's scarcity, there's imposter syndrome, there's all of those things. So part of it though is getting still in ourselves and learning like who we are and how our body speaks to us, how our spirit speak to us, like getting in deeper relationship with our being. And that happens through the being.
Tuning in inward.
So you are the director of coach training for Inner Glow Circle. You are a PCC, a professional certified coach with the International Coaching Federation. You are a mentor coach. So tell us a little bit about this vein, because there's so many different ways that one can go as a coach. And I know that preparing and supporting coaches
Mm-hmm.
is so instrumental or foundational to who you are. So how did you fall or land in that way?
This is good. So when I first signed, you know how it is when you read IGC's website and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. So when I
Mhm.
first read their website, I literally told myself that day, you're going to go to the school. I don't know how you're going to get the money, but you're going to go. And when you get and when you get there, you're going to become a trainer. I don't know why that desire really
Mhm.
rang true for me. I feel like
Mhm.
there was something there. And so when I got here, it just kind of kept happening. Like the first year when I signed up, they weren't taking student trainers, and that was my first leap in asking for the thing that I wanted. Like we always say, like say the thing no one's willing to say. And I kept
Yes.
looking around and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask. Hey, I know you guys said you're not doing this year, but I'm interested
Yeah.
and I'm here. And so it just kind of start with that desire and being willing to go after that desire. But why was the desire ever there? I question that often. Like, what made me really want to do it? And I love it.
Mm.
I absolutely love it. I think it's part of the connections of meeting women like you, being able to work with
Mhm.
you all, the fact that you guys look at me as a mirror to like mirror back to you what I see, but then also you're my mirrors and I've grown a lot. And I
Mhm.
feel like it's just this give and exchange of like energy, but it's beautiful energy. Like, we're
Yeah.
helping each other. And I think I'm gonna say, I think I love that piece of like coaching other coaches. We even be talking about when we're in coaching spaces, like it's just a different type of
Yeah.
energy that I can't even like I can't put words to it. I cannot put words to that energy of just being
Yeah.
surrounded by coaches.
Yeah. And there's something, I mean, whether it's like when we're together as coaches in the particular vein of training that we have been brought up under, because I don't think all coaches are like us. I don't know if that's my I don't know. There's something different. There's something different about us.
Yes.
But also when we're working with clients, I feel like clients feel that too, of like, this
Mhm.
space is different,
It
right?
is.
It's this invitation to shed all
Mhm.
the shoulds to shed the shit, right? To shed the expectation, to be able to be fully who you are. And here's the thing, sometimes you don't even know, but you're with someone in the coach who helps you, who holds the space for you to discover and recover and ultimately claim, right? The person that you want to be, because we get to do that. We get to choose it. We get to create it, right?
Yes.
So how can people connect with you? What do you want people to know? I know that IGC is enrollment just closed for spring training. Like, what are all the things?
So we have a couple of more days open for enrollment. So we're not completely closed, but classes do start on March 29th. That's on a Wednesday. And we have 3 classes that we're offering. So we can enroll technically up to 2 weeks after class start. And so we are still here. If you would love, if you're interested in coaching, please book a call with either one of our admissions advisors. You can go to Inner Glow Circle and be able to, click and book a call. And then as for myself, like, I just feel like right now, I'm getting ready to open my one-on-one container back up in May. You have to give yourself that time between coach, being the director of the program and then, your container. So I want to make sure that I have capacity for, the people that I'm bringing in. And so I'll be opening my container back in May. So you can find me on Instagram at the Charismatic Coach. And then you can book a call with me if you're interested to have a consultation and see if you can be, coaching with me in May. I would love to be able to connect. I just love connecting with women. And yeah.
And who are the people? Like when you think about your ideal client or the people that you love working with, tell us some of those characteristics.
Oh, I mean, you are one of my ideal clients, but we work together. So
yes,
achieving women who literally, high achieving women who know what they want, have a desire, but can't seem to break past those smaller barriers that keep them from truly accessing that, like, their greatness, right? And so I really love to help them get clear on what that is, develop an intentional plan, and really be action oriented towards those things. So those are the type of women that I actually love to work with.
Love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Charisma, for being here again. I will drop all of the links and ways to connect not only with Charisma, but also with Inner Glow Circle if you're interested in coach training. I did not mean for this series to point so heavily towards IGC, but for anyone who knows me, you know that authenticity, integrity, quality of service, experience are non-negotiable for me. So I think it's just the truth of the situation that IGC has just been a game changer for not just me, but for so many of us that really are about the business and work of transformation. So thank you for joining me, Charisma.
Thank you for having me.
And for those who are watching and are listening, thank you for being present for today's conversation as part of the Elevate Coaching series, where we consider new possibilities and create new realities through the power of coaching. Next week is our last week in this Women's History Month series for this quarter. We'll be back in quarter 2, and I'll share more about that later. But join us for our last few conversations that will happen next week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Central on Facebook. And the recordings will be uploaded to YouTube. We have a channel specifically for these conversations. And as I was going back and listening to them, I'm like, whoa, this is powerful. This is powerful. So thank you for joining me and have a great weekend.
All right.